Okay. Okay, looks like we are on live. That all worked. So welcome. This is January the 25th, and it is the Harford County Delegation Meeting. I'm Chair Delegate Teresa Riley. Everybody has their agenda and the bills that will be discussed today. We're going to start out with a prayer, and that will be done by Delegate Susan McComas, our Vice Chair. And we're going to ask everybody to stay seated in doing that, please.
Thank you. I'm here in the House chambers because I don't have to move two places, but I'm surrounded by men of great intellect, thought, that were former speakers, and I pray that they can give us wisdom with the help of the Almighty to do the right thing, because right now we are the men and women in the arena. Per Teddy Roosevelt, he talked about the man in the arena, and it's easy to criticize, but when you are the men and women in the arena, it's not always easy, and the path is not always clear. And I hope that all the past and the present people help us with the best wisdom and advice, and the Almighty helps direct us to the right answers. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Delegate McComas. And then we're going to have the pledge again, if everyone just would remain seated, just for presentation purposes, and that is going to be done by Delegate Andre Johnson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Delegate Johnson. Okay, so now welcoming remarks. I believe on the line we may have Lisa Cheney. She is going to be take over. She's been out on sick leave, and we had mentioned the very first week we had David Morgan, who was helping us with our liquor bills from DLS and our council. I think he is with us again today, but we also, I think, have on the line Lisa, so welcome her. And she will be on her own, apparently, with us next week. So welcome, Lisa, if you're there. And David, thank you so much for all of your work. And I'm going to ask Vice Chair McComas if she would make a motion to hold our old business until the presentation of the DLS fiscal briefing. Take you off mute, Delegate McComas. Delegate McComas.
Yes, I apologize, Madam Chair. Okay. In deference to the important work that DLS has to do, we want to get them on time and off quickly,
on their way.
On their way, because they have important business. So, Madam Chair, I move that we move old business to the end of our agenda, since we have a lot of different things that we have to do, and to the point that after we finish new business, we can then go ahead and deal with the old business.
Second.
Okay. Would I rather stick with the agenda? I'm sorry. And then we're just going to move DLS presentation above old business and then follow.
Yeah. Okay, follow the old business.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then I correct. I make the motion that we move old business to the end of the DLS presentation and question.
Yes. Thank you, Delegate McComas. And
Second.
Delegate Andre Johnson? Second?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for both of you for that. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Department of Legislative Services, and they're going to show or talk about and point out the Harford County fiscal briefing. And we have Valerie here. We have Herman, and we also have Arnold. And I believe I'm going to let you take over and see who talks first and second and third. Welcome.
Madam Chair, just for a point of order, should we have voted on that change, or we don't need to? I'm just asking a question.
We can. Everybody just voice say aye. Okay, thank you, Delegate McComas.
I apologize.
Good.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Arnold Daja, and I'm a policy analyst at the Department of Legislative Services. Valerie Monroe and I will be presenting on the state aid to Harford County. With us today is Hiram Birch, one of our legislative managers, who will provide support, and help us answer any questions that you may have. I will like now to share my screen. Um, Starting on page 1. State aid to local governments will total $10.8 billion in fiscal 2025. This represents around 33% of total general funds and 26% of total state funds. In comparison, funding for state agencies account for around 45% of general funds and 55% of total state funds. As you can see, state support for local governments comprises a large portion of the total state budget. Compared to the current year, state funding for local governments will increase by $506.5 million, which represents a 4.9% increase. And this is within the range of annual growth realized in recent years. Harford County will receive $396.7 million in state aid in fiscal 2025. Of this amount, $354.3 million is direct aid and $42.5 million is for retirement payments. Harford County will receive a 7.3% increase in state funding in fiscal 2025, with total state aid increasing by $26.9 million over the prior year. Direct aid increases by $16.8 million, while retirement payments increase by $10.1 million. Shifting your focus to the county municipal aid, Harford County will receive $12.4 million in county municipal aid, which represents a $1.4 million or 12.4% increase from the prior year. Harford County will receive $2.9 million in funding under the existing police aid formula. The majority of state funding under the police aid formula is based on population density. More urbanized jurisdictions with a higher population density receive a higher per capita grant amount. A small component of the formula, representing 4.2%, of overall funding targets funding to municipalities based on the number of sworn officers. Funding in fiscal 2025 is based on $1,950 per sworn officer. Since fiscal 2004, local governments must reimburse the state for 30% of the state police crime lab costs, which will total $5.9 million in fiscal 2025. The reimbursements are based on local crime rates, around 1/3, and local wealth, around 2/3. And the Harford County share of these costs will total just over $196,000 in fiscal 2025. The local reimbursement is deducted from each jurisdiction's police aid amount. State funding also includes $1.2 million in enhanced funding based on the number of violent crime offenses occurring within the county. Harford County will receive just over $565,000 in fire and rescue aid in fiscal 2025. Each county's funding is based on their share of property tax accounts relative to the statewide total. Each county is guaranteed a minimum 2% share of total funds, which is around $300,000. Harford County will receive $6.4 million in local health grants in fiscal 2025, which represents a 7.6% increase over the prior year. Statewide, local health departments will receive $123.2 million, which represents a $7.4 million or 6.4% increase from the prior year. As you can see, Harford County will receive a higher increase in funding this year compared to the statewide average. Now moving to transportation aid. The state provides capital grants to local governments based on the amount of revenue allocated to the gasoline and motor vehicle revenue account. This funding is allocated to local governments through the Local Highway User Revenues Program. Legislation enacted at the 2022 session increased the local share of highway user revenues beginning in fiscal 2024. In fiscal 2025, funding for the program is based on 18% of total GMVRA revenues. Of this amount, 61.1% goes to Baltimore City, 23.9% goes to county governments, and 15% goes to municipalities. These distributions increase for fiscal 2026 and 2027, and beginning in fiscal 2028, the allocations revert to the fiscal 2024 distribution, as shown in the table. However, the Budget and Reconciliation Act includes a provision that will revert the distribution back to the fiscal 2024 levels beginning in fiscal 2026. The county and municipal share is based on road mileage and vehicle registration. And in fiscal 2025, the Harford County government will receive $4.8 million, and the 3 municipalities will receive $2.7 million in local highway user revenues. Finally, Harford County will receive $2.2 million in local library aid and $18.4 million in state support for the local community college. State funding for Harford Community College will decrease by $0.9 million in fiscal 2025. The Budget and Reconciliation Act includes a provision that rebases the CADE funding formula and will reduce statewide funding for community colleges by $17.8 million over the prior year. I will now turn it over to Valerie, who will present on the education aid.
Thank you so much, Arnold. If you can turn to page 31, you will observe that the vast majority of funding is targeted to the public school system. Direct state aid to Harford County Public School System accounts for approximately 80% of total state aid provided to the county, and state providing funding for teacher retirement accounts for around 10% of total state aid. In fiscal 25, the Harford County Public School System will receive $314.9 million in direct aid, which represents a $15.8 million or 5.3% increase from the prior year. In addition, the state will provide $38.1 million in funding for teacher retirement payments. On a per pupil basis, Harford County will receive $9,552 in state funding, $8,521 per pupil in direct aid, and $1,031 per pupil for teacher retirement payments. If you turn to page 32, Harford County will receive a 5.2% increase in per pupil direct aid in fiscal 25. This exceeds the statewide average increase of 3.2%. Harford County ranks 4th in the amount of per pupil direct aid increase. We will now turn our attention to state education funding under the Blueprint initiatives. Harford County will receive $14 million in state funding under the Blueprint initiatives in fiscal 25. This includes $1.2 million for supplemental instruction, $8 million in concentration of poverty grants, $3.7 million for full-day pre-kindergarten, and $0.6 million for college and career programs. On page 36, this provides us with the state education funding based on targeted student populations. A considerable amount of state education funding is based on targeted student populations, with Harford County receiving $88.7 million in targeted grants under the compensatory aid, English language learners, and special education programs. Of these three programs, Harford County receives $55.9 million in compensatory aid funding and $27.7 million in special education funding. Due to the low number of English language learner students, Harford County Public School System receives around $5.1 million in English language learners grants. We will now turn our attention to student enrollment. The full-time equivalent student enrollment count increases by 0.1% in Harford County, which is similar to the statewide average increase of 0.1%. Currently, the county school system has around 37,000 public school students, which accounts for approximately 4.3% of students statewide. On page 46, the number of students approved for the free and reduced price meal increases by 7.9% in Harford County, which exceeds the statewide average increase of 1.3%. This increase is the fifth highest in the state. Harford County currently has the seventh lowest percentage of students approved for the free and reduced price meal at 40.6% of total student enrollment. Statewide, over half of the students are approved for the free and reduced price meal, and this ranges from around 27% in Carroll County to almost 90% in Dorchester County and Baltimore City. On page 47, this shows us the number of students identified as English language learners. Harford County has the 8th lowest percentage of students identified as English language learners at 2.9% of total student enrollment. In fiscal 25, the number of English language learner students increases by 10.8%, resulting in around 104 additional students requiring language services. Harford County has the 10th highest enrollment increase for English language learner students. If you turn to page 48, you will observe that Harford County has an above average share of students receiving special education services and is ranked 4th in the share of students receiving special education in the state. In fiscal 25, the number of students receiving special education services accounts for 16.5% of total enrollment, compared to the statewide average of 13.9%. If we go back to page 37, this data here shows the factors affecting targeted education funding. Harford County has the 7th lowest targeted student index in the state at 60%. This index actually adds together the percent of full-time equivalent students who are approved for the free and reduced price meal, English language learners, and special education services. The targeted student index ranges from 42.3% in Carroll County to 117.4% in Baltimore City, with a statewide average at 78.3%. On page 38, you will observe that the targeted student index in Harford County is primarily comprised of students approved for the free and reduced price meal and special education services. The county has a relatively low share of students receiving English language services. If you go with me to page 50, this shows the public school enrollment as a share of total population. Statewide, public school enrollment represents 13.9% of the total state population. In Harford County, public school enrollment represents 14% of the overall county population, and this is the 9th highest share in the state. In comparison, Kent County has the lowest share, with public school enrollment accounting for 8.4% of the total county population, while Howard County has the highest share at 16.7%. I want to thank you for listening to our presentation. I will now turn it back over to Arnold, and he will give you a walkthrough of our website and show you where to find important reports, including the report we use for our presentation. Thanks again.
Thank you, Val. So I'm starting from the Maryland General Assembly website, and I click on the link on the top right corner to access the Legislative Services webpage. And from there, to access our state aid resources, you would click on the Budget tab, followed by the State Aid to Local Governments sub-tab. As you can see to the right of the page, you have a snapshot on the fiscal year 2025 allowance. And to the left, you have our state aid resources broken down into sections. Under state aid reports, you can access the 2-year charts by government entity. You also have access to the state aid broken down by county and program. For example, this will show you the fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 state aid to Harford County by programs. Under session reports, you can access the full report that we just presented on. And under highlighted, state aid data downloads enables users to download state aid data in CSV Excel format going back to 2010, either county or statewide. Now, I would briefly like to show you how you can access our local government reports, and those are actually located in our intergovernmental page. And so to access that, you would click on the Policy Areas tab, followed by the Intergovernmental sub-tab. I would like to particularly focus on 2 of our reports. One is one of our annual reports, and it's the County Revenue Outlook. And this provides an overview of fiscal condition of counties and illustrates the revenue attainment from major local tax sources. And there's also our local government overview report, which was created to provide officials and the public with a better understanding of the fiscal and social issues confronting local governments in Maryland. For instance, demographic indicators provides insight on the social and economic characteristics of communities in Maryland. You have information on local government finances, tax rates. It is truly a valuable resource, and we are in the process of updating this report for 2024. Now, I would like to turn it over for any questions that you may have, and thank you for your time.
Thank you to the 3 of you. I saw Delegate Griffith had a question or answered. Okay. Was answered. Thank you. So do I see any other questions from the delegation? Don't see any hands. Okay, so no questions. So that means you did an absolutely wonderful job, or we have to go back and
Madam
look
Chair.
at it. Really, I'm sorry, who is that?
Madam
I
Chair,
can't-
Delegate McCombs has a question.
Okay, can't see everybody because of can we take the chart down possibly?
I just want to say,
Okay, thank you.
this was a wonderful presentation, and obviously you did a good job kind of guiding us through where things might be. I truly appreciate it. And anyway, I've been around a little while, and you guys really did a great job. Thank you.
Okay,
If
I'm sorry.
if I can just add, this is basically just a highlight of the information in the reports. And once you go back to your office, you have other questions or you flip through the report if you want us to like stop by your office or contact you, we can go through the entire document with you or certain exhibits that we didn't highlight today. So we'd be more than willing to meet with you to answer any questions you may have once you have a chance to go through the different reports.
Right, that's wonderful. That's what I was going to ask, if maybe we could, later after looking through the information, if we had further questions that we could just contact your office and we could have individual meetings. That would be wonderful.
Great.
So thank you very much. And thank you all, and good luck going through the other counties. And we appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that ends our presentation on the Harford County fiscal briefing. Now we're actually going to move into our old business, picking up on the agenda. And Vice Chair Delegate McComas, would you please make a motion to approve the minutes from last week?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of last week's minutes.
Okay, and who is going to second? Okay, is that Delegate Steve Johnson? Yes, okay, second, Delegate Steve Johnson. And we're just going to do this by raise of hand. Everybody approve the minutes. I see everything. Any objection? Okay, minutes approved from last week. Now we have the elections that we have to do as well for our chair and our vice chair. Procedure wise, we do the vice chair first and then we do the chair. So it's open to the floor. So do I have a motion for the vice chair position?
I would like to nominate Delegate Susan McComas for vice chair.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for Delegate McComas as vice chair.
Second.
And Delegate Steve Johnson will second that. Okay, and hopefully we can just do this as well with hands. Everybody? Okay. Any opposition? Seeing none, then Delegate McComas has been elected as vice chair of the Harford County delegation. And now we have, do I have a motion for the chair position?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to nominate you, Delegate Teresa Riley, for chair.
Thank you. I have a motion for myself, Delegate Riley, as chair. And do I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second the nomination.
Oh, okay. All righty. And we have Delegate McComas is going to second that nomination. So thank you both very much. And now everybody agree with Delegate Teresa Riley being the chair of the Harford County delegation. Just raise your hand, show of hands. Okay. And any opposition? Seeing none, then Delegate Riley, which is myself, has been elected as chair. So thank you very much for your confidence for Delegate McComas and I going forward. And hopefully that we can continue to do a good job and get us through our delegation bills this year. Which takes us to the very next agenda, which is LR 1557, and that's the stadium license annual fee reduction. This bill was put in by Delegate Steve Johnson. We've seen this bill before. I think we pretty much know what it does. We have in your packet, we have a letter that was given to us by Councilwoman Jessica Boyle Stottles. So she's in support of the bill. We have some information in your packet that Delegate Steve Johnson has provided and has found that there are 4 other locations, including Harford, it would be 5, that are similar to the Ironbirds Stadium. Hopefully you had a chance to look at that. And I'm going to open it up to Delegate Johnson to give comments. And then we also have some testimony. Would you like the who is it? Jack Graham to go first or yourself? Delegate
I'll go first. I'll go first if you don't mind, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Delegate Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everybody, we've seen this bill before. As Harford County delegation, I think it's our job to make sure that our businesses have as level a playing field as possible with businesses around the state. Right now, this business is paying 4 to 5 times higher than every other minor baseball league stadium in the state. And there are 4 other stadiums who are allowed to sell beer, wine, and liquor under a much reduced fee for liquor fee. There are other stadiums that are also allowed to do events in the parking lot with special permits. and serve alcohol that are covered under their fee. So what I want is us to be able to compare apples to apples around the state and make sure our businesses are getting a fair shake. With that, Madam Chair, I'll pass it to Mr. Graham if he'd like to add any comments.
Okay, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Delegate. Thank you, Chair and committee delegation. I appreciate being here. Many of you have seen this bill before. It's not new. It's not a different request. Not knowing the inner workings of legislature, I can't say why it has not passed through yet, though I know that this delegation has been supportive in the past. I appreciate it, and I'd like to echo Delegate Johnson's request that our business be treated similarly to other businesses around the state who have much lower fees and comparable rights under their liquor license. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Jack Graham is actually the general manager of the Ironbirds Stadium. So thank you, Jack, for being with us again this year on this particular bill. Okay, so I think we're ready. If Delegate Johnson would like, I think we could possibly be ready for a possible vote on this. My question before we move on, so the bill is going to remain the same, Delegate Johnson, that we see it. The fee is going to be reduced to $4,000.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay.
That's still almost twice as much as every other stadium in the state.
So, okay, great. All right, so everyone is aware of what the bill does. It's reducing the stadium fee from the $10,000 to the $4,000. And thank you, Delegate Johnson, for all of your information. And the information you added was pretty compelling. So if we have a motion to move forward on this bill, I'm open to that now.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move forward on this bill.
Okay, we have a first to support this particular bill as written in front of us. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. So I'm going to ask James Reed if he would please take the voice vote.
You, Vice Chair McComas.
Yes.
Okay. Delegate Arkin.
Yes.
Delegate Griffith.
Yes.
Delegate Andre Johnson.
Aye.
Delegate Steve Johnson.
Yes.
And then Chair Delegate Riley.
Yes, but I hate to do this. I failed to allow the Harford County Liquor Board to weigh in on this particular bill. So this is just to support it as is. We can come back and change that if we want, but I do want to have them the opportunity to speak. So I do believe we have Wayne Goddard on there, and he is the president of the Harford County Commissioners for the Liquor Board. Mr. Goddard.
Can you hear me okay? Can
Yeah,
you guys hear
you're
me?
kind of breaking up.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to do this on my cell phone.
Okay.
So I'm actually the chairman of the liquor board. So here, obviously, we've shared with you our finances, so you know that we're operating at a structural deficit. If we were not operating at a structural deficit, this bill would be less concerning to us. However, I'm also a small business owner, and I have seen the information that Delegate Johnson has prepared that shows how we compare to other stadiums, and we don't want to be viewed as a harsh environment to conduct business. So I certainly respect that. One thought that I had was possibly maybe a compromise, maybe not quite 4,000, maybe 5,000 or 6,000 or something along those lines. But I understand the idea behind reduction to bring it more in line with the other stadiums. Obviously, if we reduce this revenue, it's going to exacerbate our structural deficit. But it's not an insurmountable reduction, and it's not an insurmountable hit to our budget. There are other licenses that are coming online, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to increase revenues. There's some other bills that we hope the election will pass, such as the barbershop bill and the salon bill, that will hopefully increase revenue. So I would say we are not as vehemently opposed to it as we were in past years, because I do think it is business friendly, and I'm familiar with the other venues. I'm actually from Charles County, so I'm familiar with that venue, and it is very similar to the one we have. So I think I also would echo the sentiment of whoever said it, that the presentation by either Delegate Johnson or Mr. Grant was better than in past years, kind of more analytical. I'm a data person. I like to have data to understand the why behind it. So the only thing I will say is this $10,000 licensing fee was agreed to when the legislation was proposed. So it wasn't like we've increased this over, or you guys have increased this over the years. But, you know, as with anything, certainly there's a proper time, proper place to evaluate whether or not a fee is appropriate. And this one does seem to be disproportionately high to our neighbors. So
Okay. Thank you.
Kind of
Thank you. We appreciate that, Mr. Goddard. And I did hear what you said about, you know, possibly making the fee maybe 5 or 6. We did have that discussion, you know, prior to coming down here to Annapolis, and that actually did not have full support. And as you just heard, everyone pretty much just voted on the bill, supporting it as is, with the reduction of taking it down to the 4,000. But we do thank you, and we're glad that you know, your view is not quite as harsh as it was at one time, with the information that Delegate Steve Johnson was able to provide. So we're very grateful for that. And I see a hand from Delegate McComas, and then we'll go to Delegate Steve Johnson.
I would just like to say it's very important that we get something on the track here, a car on the train track, because we want to get it in, we want to get it through economic matters, and then there's the Senate, because I don't think there's a cross file here by the Senate. So I think this gives us some strong negotiating power, and hopefully to make it so that we find a compromise somewhere. But I think it's important that we try to be competitive with our other ball fields, and we're not, you know, because this is going to, in other words, we want Ripken to be successful, and we want it to be something that's great for Harford County residents as well as people visiting Harford County. So I think, you know, although the legislation's never perfect, but I think we've got to get something on the table. So
Okay, thank you, Delegate McComas. Okay, we have to move on. So Delegate Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Goddard, for looking at the information and coming up with your opinions of today, and looking out after our small businesses and all the businesses in Harford County. And you know, we're always thinking about the liquor board and ways that we can help you and make that thing a success, and you guys be able to continue to do your job. So we always have you guys in the back of our minds as well.
Thank you. Well said, Delegate Johnson. Thank you. Okay, so that has approved the bill for support. Now I need a motion to move the bill as a Harford County delegation bill as amended.
Madam Chair, I don't think everybody voted.
Yes. Well, now we have to vote it as a Harford County delegation bill.
So move as a Harford County delegation bill.
Second.
Back up. Point of order, Madam Chair. I don't think we all voted on the original motion.
Yes, I was the last one. I said yes, but then I put on hold to have a discussion. So,
all right, thank you.
Yes. Is that true? I'll just, Mr. Reed, is that correct?
Yes, I have everybody's votes in.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Johnson. Okay, so now, Delegate Johnson, you making the motion to make it Harford County delegation bill?
I'd like to make a motion to make this a Harford County delegation bill.
Okay, and second, Delegate McComas second. And James, if you could please take the voice vote.
Chair McComas, or Vice Chair McComas, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Delegate Arkin.
Yes.
Delegate Griffith.
Yes.
Delegate Andre Johnson.
Aye.
Delegate Steve Johnson.
Yes.
And Chair Delegate Riley.
Yes. Okay, so that passes. We'll move that and get that ready for the hopper. Our next bill on the schedule is LR 2512, which is the for-profit performing arts theater. This bill probably looks very familiar to you as well. It's actually current law for what we passed last year, but we passed it for the nonprofit, which in turn did not really help them out. So that's why last week we introduced and already dropped a new bill for the nonprofit performing arts theater. So this, what we found out talking with bill drafting, is that we can actually use this for what we passed last year and change it and make the amendments that it would fit for the for-profit. Basically, what it does is adds liquor. Because currently they can sell beer, wine, and liquor, beer and wine. We're adding the liquor portion to it. We are removing the showing of movies. The liquor board thought that would be important to take it out of this one, since it was a for-profit business because of our theater license that we currently have on the books. So we removed a showing of films out of this bill, added the liquor, and then raised the fee to $1,500 because, again, it's for profit and we're adding liquor, and all of these alcohol products have to be purchased by a wholesaler, not retailer. It has to be a wholesaler because they have large quantities and they have the location to store the alcohol. So that's basically what this bill does. And if I do have some people here to testify. I have Adam Rybinski, and he's the senior aide of the Office of the Mayor of Havre de Grace. So Adam, if you would like to speak on this bill.
Madam Chair, members of the delegation, Adam Rybinski for the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace. The city supports LR 2512. As the chair just said, this LR would add for-profit performing arts centers to current state statute. This is a pro-business LR. If passed, would make doing business in Harford County easier while also encouraging economic development. We are requesting a favorable vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rybinski. And now we have Mr. Wayne Goddard from the Liquor Board. Have any comments?
Thank you. We would support this bill as well. We're really, I just want to say on behalf of the board, we're very impressed with what we're seeing, particularly in Harford County, with the pivot of that community from more of a medical service to arts and entertainment. Again, this goes back into our desire to be business friendly and a desire for our community and our county as a whole to have a more robust arts and entertainment. So, our experience has been with these folks, particularly on the nonprofit side, is they are very light. They're very easy to administer. It's usually much older folks who go to these things. So underage drinking is not a problem. Betting's not a problem. Any of the typical problems associated with alcohol dispensing usually are not a problem with these events. So if there's a desire for it, certainly we would support it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goddard. And now we're open for delegation discussion. Do I see any questions on this particular bill? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to move forward and support this bill with the current amendments?
Madam Chair.
A motion, we move the bill as written.
Second.
Okay. We have a first, which is Delegate Steve Johnson. We have a second, Delegate Susan McComas. And James, if you could take the voice vote.
Vice Chair McComas,
Yes.
Delegate Arikan,
Yes.
Delegate Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Andre Johnson,
Aye.
Delegate Steve Johnson,
Yes.
and Chair Delegate Riley.
Yes. Okay, and same, can we just keep the same first and second to actually support this bill as a Harford County delegation bill as amended? Yes. Okay, so James, you can just keep the same first, Delegate Steve Johnson, second, Delegate Susan McComas. And the motion was to support this bill as a Harford County delegation as amended. And please take the voice vote.
Vice Chair McComas,
She was on mute, but I saw her lips move.
okay. Delegate Arikan,
Yes.
Yes.
Delegate Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Andre Johnson,
Aye.
Delegate Steve Johnson,
Yes.
and Chair Delegate Riley.
Yes. Okay, so the for-profit performing arts bill has passed, and we'll get that one dropped as well. Moving on to new business. We have LR 1578. This is the Harford County Alcoholic Beverages Board of License Commissioners membership and compensation. And this bill was put in by Delegate Steve Johnson. And we are open for discussion on this. And I will let Delegate Johnson start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, this bill is a Harford County Liquor Board bill. It takes our commissioners from board members from 5 down to 3, but adds 2 substitutes. In our meeting with the Liquor Board, or pre-legislative meeting, we discussed a lot of things. They talked about their financial situation. And also, what really hit home with me is that the inspector, the one that's out doing the work, the actual inspections, took a cut in pay. To me, when I worked for UPS, management were considered nothing derogatory, but non-productive employees. And the people out doing the work, we want to make sure that we take care of those folks, especially with these additional bills that we're passing that will increase the workload. So I think when I asked the question to the board of why we needed 5, taking their comments into consideration about people on vacation, sick, needing to have a quorum and have an odd number of voters, taking that into consideration, I added the 2 substitutes after looking at the way a few other counties work. You should have a in your packet a chart that shows other counties and the way they operate. So what I'm just looking to do here is make sure that the Liquor Board has the members that they need to do the business and the work that they need to do, but to streamline and lessen our expenses a little bit and streamline that operation. And for God's sakes, give the money back to the inspector who's actually out there doing the work. So that's the premise of this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Johnson, but I do need to, I think, make a correction on that, and Mr. Goddard can verify. I believe the person that you're talking about is the general manager. He's not the inspector.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But,
you're correct, Chair.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
That's
So
the general manager. Sorry for this.
But it's still a staff person or employee, that took a cut. But he is the general manager, and now we will have Mr. Goddard. Do you have any comments?
Yes, we would strongly oppose this bill. And logistically, first of all, we are essentially volunteers on this commission. I'm the president and general counsel of a holding company. Commissioner Walters is a CPA. Commissioner Sines is an insurance agent. Commissioner Majewski owns his own business. Commissioner Burdett's the only one that's essentially a retired, so it's going to be very difficult to try to source someone who's going to be a substitute member, because effectively you'd have to clear your calendar and not know, because when our leaders come down, they come down about 24 hours in advance of the meeting, and then the staff sends a questionnaire who's going to be there or not. So that you would almost effectively have to have 5 members anyway. So you're not really saving anything. In addition to that, reducing it to 3 members would effectively gridlock the operations, because on our board, unlike some other liquor boards, the chair cannot make a motion. I call for the motions, but I don't make the motion. So effectively, you would have to have a unanimous consent on everything. You'd have to have one commissioner make a motion, the other one second it, otherwise it would never go anywhere. That would be very detrimental to particularly the licensees, because you would have no possibility of appealing to maybe another commissioner on a violation notice or anything of that nature. It would effectively reduce the liquor board to two commissioners, one that would advance the motion and the other that would second it. So because I can't, I don't vote until the motions have been done. In addition, the 5-member setup was originally created to take into consideration the diverse geographic and economic environments of Harford County. The statute that governs the composition of the board provides that members should be sought from different geographic regions throughout Harford County. For example, the northern part of the county, the southern part of the county, Bel Air, because each of those needs, unlike some counties that are more homogeneous than ours, our county basically runs the gamut from technology to small business to farm to more of a dense area. So it would significantly undercut the diversity that we have been able to achieve on the board, which I think that diversity of background and diversity of thought has been very helpful. At the end of the day, we believe that this proposed legislation would finally impact the ability for us to efficiently serve the licensees in a robust and responsive and an equitable fashion, because it would basically make it so that two commissioners were controlling all liquor license decisions throughout the county. So I understand the idea behind it. I think that with the revenue models that we are putting into place, as well as some other structures, you know, I'm a business owner. One of the things that I do in our holding company is evaluate ways to make businesses more profitable. And I'm going to continue to report to each of you, as long as I'm on the commission, the status of us financially. You'll be getting another update in a couple months. My suggestion would be to not advance this motion, or not advance this legislation, and let's just wait and see how our structural deficit shakes out. We might be pleasantly surprised that it's not as bad as we had anticipated. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Goddard. Okay, so my only comment, as you see on the agenda, since this is the first time that we've actually had discussion on this bill, so I put on the agenda for, you know, discussion. Again, everybody, you know, is open. If you want to make the motion, that's fine. But with receiving, you know, comments from Mr. Goddard and then getting the information from Delegate Johnson, you know, I'm at this point, I would like to have more time and maybe, you know, we don't really have to table it, just put it on old business for next week. And Delegate Johnson, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out on the chart that 9 other counties operate with 3 board members and substitutes. And I also wanted on the record, Madam Chair, on page 3 of this bill and line 8 and 9, it says the county executive shall consider geographical representation in selecting nominees. And I don't think we followed that when we voted for the last nominees, as Delegate Susan McComas kept trying to point out. I just wanted that on the record. Thank you, Madam.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Johnson. Okay, do I see any other hands of discussion while we have this bill in front of us? And then hopefully next week we can be ready to cast our vote on this bill after each one of us look at it a little further. Okay, seeing no more hands, we'll move to the next bill, LR 1566. This is another new legislation. This is higher education, Harford Community College Board of Trustees, alterations to how they hire or appoint or pick their trustees. So we do have folks here. Look, if you look at the bill, basically what it does currently, there are 9 members on the Board of Trustees. 6 are chosen from in districts. So if someone from District D becomes vacant, then they accept applications from District D. And then that's whom they have to choose from that pocket. So the trustees have thought about this and apparently voted on their own. Suggested this particular bill that is in front of you, which basically on page 2 moves 3 members residing in councilmatic districts A, B, and E together, so they can actually receive resumes from 3 districts opposed to just 1. And then the next one would be the district C, D, and E lumped together, where they can pick a nominee. So we sent this out to the delegation and to our senators. I know we have Jordan on the line. He works for Senator Jason Gallion, and Jason and Jordan have done a little bit more studying on this as well and got some information. And they would like to also put forward an amendment. So I'll just briefly go over the amendment, and then we can have our folks that are here from the community college to speak on why they feel this bill is particularly needed and a change needs to be made. And then we can discuss whether we like it as is or amend it or altogether. So the amendment that the Senator Gallion came up with was to alter and make all 9 members appointed at large. And that appointment would be actually made by the governor, along with, so the governor shall take into consideration the geographical and the ethnic presentation of the Harford County so that all segments of the population of the county are represented on the board, which they currently are now. I think they do a phenomenal job in choosing their trustees, and we are very diverse on that current committee. So I'm going to have it now. I have Dr. Teresa Felder, who is the president of Harford Community College, and we also have Dr. Dick Street, who is the board chair of the trustees. And I'm not sure who's going to go first, so I'll let you decide, and you tell us how important this bill is.
Sure, Madam Chair, thank you very much. I'll take the lead on this to start, and then Dr. Felder can chime in. So as you say, you did a great introduction to the bill. So, currently we have representation from each councilmanic district on the board, in addition to 3 at-large positions. Historically, it certainly has served us well. However, more recently, over the past several years, we have had some challenges when it comes to fulfilling seats that are vacant from a specific councilmanic district. And it has led to extended vacancies at times within one of those positions that unfortunately we either haven't been able to fill, but also we've had at the same time some wonderful candidates that could have joined the board that could not be a part of the board as a result of where they live. As we continue to research this a little bit, we found out that this is I don't want to say it's fully antiquated, but it's definitely an older way to kind of develop and form your board. And it seems that most jurisdictions these days, not just in Maryland, but also in other states, tend to do a much broader region when it comes to choosing their candidates, or as Senator Gallion mentioned, some areas just kind of leave it even more broadly open. First and foremost, as a board, we respect, we encourage, and we absolutely understand the importance in a community college setting, especially of maintaining that diversity of representation throughout the county. We obviously have a very diverse county, and if we had representation from only the north part of the county, it certainly would not be an appropriate representation of what our college is, how our college is formed, and how our student body is diversified as well. So what we originally proposed was doing a split between districts, which we felt gave us a little bit more flexibility in filling these positions, but still maintaining that geographic and ethnic diversity of the board, keeping that intact. And it just provides us with a little bit more flexibility. So we hope to not have those vacant seats and not have to turn down individuals that are very well qualified and could be a great advocate for the community college.
Okay, Dr. Street, before we forward that, are you okay with the amendment from Senator Gallion's office? Have you looked at that?
Yes, so I am comfortable personally with it. I think that obviously the more flexibility we have in development of the board and being able to not have to turn down qualified individuals, absolutely. I'm certainly in favor of it personally. And I do think, having language in there that does speak to, making sure that we do, still consider the geographic and ethnic diversity of the board, certainly still be considered.
Okay, thank you. And now Dr. Felder.
Good morning, delegation, and thank you for your support. Dr. Street really covered it beautifully and covered all the points. We are, again, I would emphasize that we have a very diverse board now, and and that's very purposeful, that we consider our diversity, again, both ethnic and as far as our balance between males and females. We look at diversity completely as a whole when we're considering vacancies. So that will continue. And I think all of the trustees understand the importance of maintaining that diversity. And so even with this change, legislative change, that will continue. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I failed to mention, so it, the bill definitely, deals with the members and how they're chosen, but also there's a section on the last part of the bill that I failed to mention. Currently in the bill, or in law, the board of community college trustees and the president and the Harford County Board of Education and the superintendent of schools have to meet twice annually. We are actually removing that and then making it what they currently do. And I believe this is also what you said most other counties do, is that twice annually, the president of the college and the superintendent of public schools actually meet to discuss the issues. So is that correct?
That is correct. And that change, historically, the two boards were combined. And I think that's leftover language from when we operated that way. So this just updates how we actually function currently.
Okay. Thank you so much for that clarification. And now I open to discussion. I see Delegate Arkan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for being here, everybody, and bringing this bill. I actually have just a quick, Dr. Felder, I think my office has reached out for a time-sensitive constituent-related matter. So I'm not sure if you got the message, but I would love to chat with you.
Okay, no, I did not get that. So
okay,
yes.
Yeah, I'll have her reach out again. Hopefully we can set it pretty soon because I'm the constituent actually. So yeah,
okay,
thanks.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Arkan. And then I see Delegate Steve Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to the folks that came to speak on this bill today. While I understand the difficulties of staffing the board with board members, I also understand that when you just put it at large, just like I just spoke on the liquor board, some areas of the county could be left out when you talk about this many appointees. And I just want to make sure that all sections of the county are represented. I know we do elections, but I want to make sure we have an equal amount of all parts of the county geographically represented on the board of the college. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, Delegate McComas.
I guess I had a concern, and I helped do the school board, and for ill or good, but we made sure that all of the county districts had a representative on the school board, for an elected school board, and then 3 members at large. My concern is, and I basically went through District A is different than District B, which is Falston. District A incorporates the Joppatown area and Joppa, which is a very different than Falston. Falston has a very, it has a lot of McMansions. And then F is Haverty Grace, and Haverty Grace is very different than those two. And then we go to District C, D, and E. District C is the town of Bel Air, and then it has a lot of areas south, which it has like Glenwood, it has Glenwood, Glen Angus, and other parts. And then we have D, which is I believe Councilman Riley's district, which is very rural, and then E, which I believe has Aberdeen. I'm not going to swear to it, but these are all very different. And I guess I have a real problem with, and I appreciate getting folks, but I think it is important to maintain the diversity. And the easiest way to do it is just say, we keep the districts as is, A, B, C, A, B, F, the whole, a person from each of the councilmanic districts. Because they are different. They're all very different. The constituencies are different in each of those districts. The problems are different. And I guess, and certainly the population and the needs of each population. And so I have a real problem with combining them, 3, because we could get 3 from Joppatown, and that would be okay. The way this is set up, or we could get 3 from District C. That's not fair. That was kind of a problem when we saw the nominations for the liquor board. They were all from the same neighborhood. Now they were all fine people, but that's a concern I have, because I think I think I understand it's somewhat broken, but I think if we do a good job of getting people in those different councilmanic districts, we can get some good people that will represent their district.
Okay, Delegate Comus, I just another idea. Would you be open to discussion on what if say District A was the one that was open, okay? And then we still lump the three together, but District A is the one that is leaving, and that's the main area that we need a nominee for, okay? A resume. So what if we open it to like 30 days and waiting for, applications, resumes from that district. And then if you don't get anything, because that's the problem, they're not getting people to apply as well. And then maybe if you don't get anything on that 30th day, then you open it up to the other two districts, for another 30 days to make the pool bigger. The problem is the pool is too small to find good qualified people.
My concern is that I'm not sure with the Fallston area, we could get somebody that no dispersions, but Fallston is so different than, let's say, District A, Joppatown. And that's my concern is that, okay, we couldn't get anybody from the Joppatown area. I mean, I know it's bigger than that, but my concern is that we could get all of, maybe if we could extend it maybe to 45 days. I realize we just need to make sure we get the diversity of the county with the different students and the different needs of the students to be on the board. That's my concern. Because quite honestly, I had the opportunity to go to one of President Fielder's events, and I was so impressed with the kids that spoke, the students. I mean, they was like, oh my God. And I obviously the college is doing a great job. And I just think that it's just a real concern that I have, because I just think that lump of that districts of those three, they're very diverse. They're very different. So
Okay, that's on the current bill, the way it's drafted. So
Right.
your ideas on the amendment that was sent over from Senator Gallion's office, your thoughts?
I have actually not seen Senator Gallion's amendment, so I really can't comment on it. I'm just kind of concerned about maybe we all need to do a better job to get some folks to apply. From the individual districts, and certainly maybe have the help of our local councilmen.
Okay, I have a question. Jordan, would you mind coming on so I can ask a question? Because I know that Senator Gallion has another meeting, so he couldn't join us, but maybe if you could answer a question for us. You had said when you sent over the possible amendment, you said that you received that from information that you gathered from other counties. Can you tell us how many counties operate as far as all being appointed?
Sure. Camera's working right now, but yeah, so only one other county uses the CCBC, Baltimore County, and I believe they have 15 members on their board. And of course, they also have, I believe they have 3 other campuses. So it's a little bit bigger in size than HCC. But yeah, only one other county uses the districts, the councilmanic districts.
Okay. All right. And how many colleges?
I believe I'll have to get back to you on how many colleges. Okay. But I have a fiscal note. If you want to look at SB 69 as reference, it's an Anne Arundel County legislation that's coming through.
SB 69.
It's very similar to what this.
69. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
and in that fiscal note, it'll have a chart of the breakdown of all the colleges and how their boards of trustees operate.
Okay. All right, so that would be good. We'll maybe get a copy of that and forward that to the entire delegation so we can, look at that. And Delegate Steve Johnson, question?
Yes, Madam Chair. If you're still on the line, Jordan, if you could, do you have the amendment in front of you that you could read to us, or is it too lengthy?
So we can't get an amendment per se drafted because it's still an LR, but I can certainly get the language of the changes that would be in the bill.
Okay, thank you.
And we can forward that later today as well. Along with the bill, the other bill that he just mentioned, Senate Bill 69, and then the amendment language. So we'll send that out. So I see any other questions while we have Dr. Street and Dr. Felder here on with us?
Madam Chair, if I could make one other comment.
Yes, absolutely.
Just and Dr. Street can speak to this as well, but I just want to make sure that everyone is clear on how we function as a board. All of the trustees think about the county as a whole. I don't think we've ever had a conversation where a trustee specifically pulled out their area of the county and spoke to the needs of that area in particular.
Delegate Johnson, could you mute, please?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Dr. Felder. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I just do want to make that point. The way that the board functions, we don't have trustees that just think about their area of the county. All of our trustees think about the county as a whole and how we can serve all parts of the county effectively. So I just want to make that point.
And I do, just to clarify, you also made a comment to me one day, I don't know if it was yourself or Dr. Street, but not only do you look at, the candidates and, or, the people in that way, but you also look at their expertise within the county. Like, what do they do? What are their jobs? Right. What can they bring to the board of trustees that's not currently there, that might think of something else that, might help a student, in a different way that, Dr. Street might not, mention.
Which is critical. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. We look at,
we try to fill that gap.
Programs that we have, the areas that we serve, the expertise of those board members and what they would add to the board. And that actually is a stronger consideration than what area they come from. Because again, the trustees think about the county as a whole and not just particular areas where they happen to live.
And to that point, that's, it goes back to the mission of the community college. So when we join the board of trustees for the community college, irregardless of where we live in the county, we understand who we're serving. We understand that our focus is on those that might be underserved or those that have a more difficult time getting access to higher education. And so that is the mission of our college. And so the entire board, regardless of where you live in the county, that is the main goal of what we do, is to provide access to higher education. So that's ultimately our primary mission, is to make sure that we're finding ways. And I think if you look at especially our recent history, but our history throughout many, many years, is we've done an amazing job of doing that. And certainly don't expect that to change based upon where somebody lives, because again, going back to what the mission of the community college is and why you joined the board to begin with.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Seeing no other questions, I guess we will move on to the agenda. And obviously this is, we have to come back for further discussion and a possible vote on this. We have a lot of research to look up and things to consider. So hopefully, if you more than welcome to come back if we have questions the next time, if you're available, and we will send you the link and let you know when that will be. Most likely it will be next Thursday.
Be happy to do so.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
You too. Okay, so we're going to move on. We have a little bit of time before the bells start ringing. So the last bill on our agenda is LR 0750, Harford County Board of Education appointed members, alterations. And this bill was put in by Delegate Andre Johnson. And we also have someone here to speak in favor of this bill as well. So Delegate Andre Johnson, if you would like to introduce the bill and then speak, and then we'll have Rachel come on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be very quick and brief.
Okay.
This piece of legislation is simple and straight to the point. It has no gimmicks with it. It's just simply, which I'm not married to, but this could be a discussion point, moving to drop the appointed members from 3 to 1, So once again, I'm not married to that, so we can have a discussion on that. But secondly, the most glaring thing for me is that the appointed members holding an officer's position over the elected members. And what that seems for me, what that means to me is that whoever's appointed by the county executive or whomever is appointing that person essentially becomes an arm of the person that appoints them, right? So it takes away from the sweat equity of the people that have gone out there and knocked on doors and put their name out there to actually be duly elected members. And it also does a disservice to the people that actually put those elected members into office. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to I guess Miss Rachel is here this morning.
Yes, Rachel, yep, DeLauder. I think she's on the line. Yes, go ahead, Rachel. Oh, you on mute or something?
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Basically, I would like to second what Delegate Johnson said. With the 3 appointed members, we have seen a majority take over the school board. They have not listened to the majority of the community members, the parents, the teachers. It seems that they're not acting in the best interest of the students and the teachers. Specifically, they completely ignored the calendar committee that they instated and the community survey that requested a pre-Labor Day start. And in doing so, they went with an after Labor Day start and and while ignoring the calendar committee, the quarters are not divvied up evenly so that it makes sense for grading and everything else. And basically at the meeting, they said, well, this is what the community wants, but Bob wants this, so this is what we're going to do. It gives too much power to the county executive. It takes power away from the elected officials. It takes power away from the community that elected those officials. It takes power away from the parents and the teachers and staff of Harford County. And I would just like to see our school board not be political and do what is best for the education of the students of Harford County.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. We appreciate you coming today and giving us your viewpoint. We're going to open it up to questions. I see Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I really appreciate this bill. Thanks, Delegate Johnson, for continuing the conversation around the Board of Ed. As it's well documented, we spent years and lots of public forums and public input to drill down on a change we just made last year. And so first and foremost, I would certainly like us to take the opportunity to allow to see how this plays out. Secondly, there wasn't much opposition to the makeup of the school board around some of the policy positions that are being addressed in this testimony until we switched the appointments from the governor to the county executive. So it based upon the last testimony, this does feel a little bit more about being upset on the policy versus the makeup of the board. And to address the concern with particularly appointed members serving as officers, the Board of Education elects their leadership. And if I recall, even the student member voted for this leadership on the board. And so obviously we respect the position of the voters to elect their members. And this position is political by its very nature because 6 of the members right now are elected. And there's an elected leader appointing those 3 members of the board. And again, so that Board of Education, furthermore, elects their own leadership. And I don't think it's just for us to take away their voice and their independence to be able to choose their own leaders of their board. So at the very least, for all those reasons, I like to give us an opportunity to see how 3 years of work we did previous to this plays out for a few more years before we decide to, reimagine all the work we've already done to this point.
Thank you, Delegate Griffith.
Thank you.
The bells have rung. I think we got your point. And then so Delegate Johnson, quickly, sorry.
Just real quick, Madam Chair, since that was brought up about the public input we took in. We had a public input meeting before we voted on the 3 appointments for the county executive. And if you will look at the minutes, there was not one person that testified that they wanted the county executive to have 3 appointments. Just a point of clarity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Delegate Johnsons. The bells have rung. So thank you, Rachel, and thank you everyone for coming on that particular bill. Real quickly, closing comments. We're going to be sending an email out. We have another bill, liquor bill, that's being drafted for the Copper Mine, possibly. And the owner of Copper Mine, we had talked about this during the interim, would like us to come over and do a site visit. So we're looking at February the 3rd, if you're interested. So look for that email. And I need a motion to, sorry, Delegate Steve Johnson.
Real quick, Madam Chair, is that going to be a site visit to both locations, the Edgewood and the Bel Air?
Edgewood, it can be, but right now
I think it should be if we're going to consider the liquor bill.
Okay, sounds good.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, so Delegate Arcan, did you just make a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
Okay, second.
Second.
Delegate McComas, second. Thank you. See you all on the floor. Thank you, Lisa. See you next week.